In this video, we are going to graph roses. It's a different kind of polar graph. Here on this page, we have roses here. We're going to have a number in front. Then we're going to have times, either sine or cosine. And then there's also going to be a number in front of your theta, in front of the angle. Okay. That number that's in front of the theta will determine how many petals or leaves this rose has. And the number in front is going to determine how far the stretch is. Okay, so we'll go through an example here. R equals 4 cosine 2 theta. Okay, so again, A is the first number, and then N is the second number. Okay, so the first thing we're going to talk about is A. A will determine the length of the petals, or if you want to call them leaves, that's fine as well. The length of the petals. The number of petals is determined by N. Okay. So I guess I should go through and say what these things are. So in this problem, A is 4. So I'm going to go ahead and say we know that there's going to be a length of 4. The number of petals is determined by N. Okay. So if N is odd, then you have N petals. If N is even, then you have twice N petals. So in this case, N is 2, which means we've got an N is even, so we're going to have twice that many petals, so that means we're going to have 4 petals. Okay. Where do I start the first petal? If it's cosine, you start the first petal at 0 degrees. Easy as that. And then our rotation, we want to think about taking the 360 degrees of the circle, and we want to divide by the number of petals. So in this case, we're going to take 360, and we're going to divide by 4 because we have 4 petals, which means we're going to have a petal every 90 degrees. All right. All of these are based at the origin, so I'm going to put a point here at the origin. First petal is out here at 0 degrees, and they have length 4. So I'm going to go out to the 4th ring and put a point. And then I'm going to rotate every 90 degrees, and I'm going to have another petal. And 90 degrees, another petal, 90 degrees, another petal. What you should notice is that that should equal the number that you're supposed to have, which is 4. I've got 4 points on there. They're all evenly spaced. They should always be evenly spaced. And then we're going to create the petal. How you draw this, you can draw each one separately. You can try to loop around and make this all at one time. But the question usually comes up like, how wide are these things supposed to be? That doesn't really bother me. So just do your best to make some petals that are kind of even, and we have a rose there. All right. R equals 3 sine 3 theta. So A, again, is 3, so we know that this is going to be the length of them this time is going to be 3 units instead of 4. The number of petals, this time N is odd, so that means we're going to have N number of petals, which means we are going to have 3 petals. Where do you start the first petal? If it is sine and not cosine, you take 90 and divide by N, which means we are going to get 90 divided by 3, which means our first petal is going to happen at 30 degrees. And we're going to rotate the petals, again, taking 360 and dividing by the number of petals that we have, which means we are going to do 360 divided by 3. We are going to have a petal every 120 degrees. Okay, so again, centered at the origin. First one is at 30 degrees, right here, with a length of 3. So I'm going to go out to here. And then we're going to rotate every 120 degrees, which means we're going to end up here at 150, length 3. Rotate another 120 degrees. You're going to have one down here at 270 with a length of 3. Double check that those are all evenly spaced, which they are. And then you can go ahead and make your petals for your rose. The one thing I want to mention here, I know this is going to come up at times, if this number is negative, okay, if your lead number is negative, still do all the same thing. find all that. All the information will be the same, except your first petal, again, is going to start at 30 degrees, but it's going to have a length. If that were negative, it's going to have a length of like -3 is going to be your length, which means I'm going to start at 30 degrees, but I'm going to go out -3, which would put me here. I'm going to go across the line to do that, to give me that first petal. And then once you have that first petal, you're still just rotating every 120 degrees to get your other 3. They're all going to be evenly spaced. But if that number is negative, your first petal is essentially directly across the circle from wherever you find that starting point to be. Okay, so that is graphing a rose.